Hi, I'm Ami Devereaux and welcome to our video series. I hope you've been watching the videos as we've gone and that you are up to date with the tips and the homework that I've given you in between. I'm not going to spend a lot of time reviewing it because we have a lot to cover. This is the last video in the specific subject matter of the time management and bringing your 2019 vision into your daily activity. But the videos will continue and we'll move on to other topics that are extremely important to your executive and your personal life and your effectiveness. So, if you've already done the homework and you took all of your lists and you put them into your calendar, you may have discovered a few things. The first thing that happens when people begin to do this homework, and I've given this coaching to a lot of people, and I do in fact do it myself, is they confront some very specific challenges. So, number one is that you suddenly discover you're a terrible underestimator of how long things take. I used to think that it took me a couple of hours to write a blog post or to write an article. Well, it does take a couple of hours to type it. But to actually produce something that I'm willing to post or that I'm willing to ship or that I'm willing to send to Forbes, it takes me about 3 days because I have to write it. I have to research it. I have to find the citations. I have to format it. And then I have to go back and edit it. And I do that repeatedly. All of that takes a whole lot of time. So just think about the gap from 2 hours to 3 days. It's huge. So the odds are that you are grossly underestimating how long things take. And as a result, you are feeling slammed and like you can't get the things done in the time that you've allocated. So that what you need to do is you think something takes an hour, estimate 2 hours. The worst thing that can happen is you finish sooner and you move on to the next thing that's on your calendar, change your context, and get going. But I'm going to suggest that may happen a lot less frequently than you imagine. Because even just running 5 errands can take an hour and a half just to move between the different locations and accomplish the tasks. That's why in the last video I said when you put something in your calendar, put a real duration. Don't just put it in your calendar as a line item because that assumes it happens instantaneously. And nothing happens instantaneously. Remember, everything happens in time. Okay, so you're expanding how long you think things take, you're overestimating how long they take, which is already going to give you a much better sense of accomplishment. The next big challenge people run into when they first surrender to their calendar is that they find themselves booked every second of the day. You can't even catch your breath. From the minute you wake up until you go to bed, you have literally given away every minute of your time to a specific task. That doesn't work. You need to do what I call aerating your calendar. And this is kind of like aerating a potted plant when you're trying to grow a flower and you just, you poke holes and you put rocks in the bottom of the soil to allow the water to go through and to aerate the soil. Same thing in your calendar. Every occasion that you put in your calendar needs a buffer, and that buffer is going to be used for a few different things. But at the most basic level, it's an opportunity for you to handle some personal maintenance and to context shift because there is actual data from neuropsychology and neurobiology that shows that we don't multitask, we actually shift between different things we're doing, and that shifting takes mental bandwidth, it takes cognitive energy, and it takes time. So when you go from doing one thing to doing something else, your brain needs to shift gears. And you psychologically need to shift gears. It's a whole different activity for me to be doing this video than to be writing whatever I write before I post this to my blog. You have to do the same thing. Give yourself time to context shift. Give yourself time to go to the bathroom, to grab a cup of tea, to talk to people in the hall, to catch up with your team. You need that. Every occasion gets a buffer. Now, here's the other thing that I suggest you do. One of the things you may also have run across is that you can't get to the things on your calendar because of interruptions. Now, those interruptions are not annoyances or nuisances. They may be very important interruptions. Most of my clients are CEOs or CTOs, and they are running organizations, and people genuinely do need them. But you can't be on call all the time. So I suggest you do a few things. First of all, turn off every alert. You do not need an alert for every email that comes in. You do not need an alert for every text message that comes in. You don't need to know or even be logged into Slack 100% of the time. If you are in an executive role or you are up to anything, or even if you're a sole proprietor working at home, you can dedicate yourself to the things you have on your calendar that you say you're going to do that require your focus, even if those things are responding to emails. And then during the aerated time of your calendar, you can set aside time to respond to whatever the interruptions are, whether they're phone calls or emails that need answering or Slack messages that need a response. All of that can be done during scheduled time between focused time. So turn off the alerts. And here's the last thing I suggest for my executive clients. Most of them are running teams or responding to the marketplace, and they feel like they need to be accessible all the time. Well, honestly, unless you're an emergency room doctor or you have a small child that might be ill, you do not need to be accessible 100% of the time. I strongly suggest you start using the mechanism that college professors use. Do you remember being in university and if you wanted to talk to your professor, you went there during office hours? So set up office hours for yourself in your office or with your team or with whomever. And those can be as generous or as stingy as you think is necessary to make yourself available for whatever is needed by your teammates or your organization without cannibalizing the time that you need to do the high focus activities that you must attend to move the ball forward down the field. Okay, that's all I have for you now. Next video, we move on to some other topics that are important to really having the best decision-making apparatus going on in your brain possible, to running your team, to your leadership, and so much more. Obviously, please reach out to me if you have any questions. And do subscribe, amidevereaux.com/blog. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.